Jaylen Knighton has been removed from the official roster on the West Virginia website. We talk about that and this huge loss on Locked On West Virginia.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what is up, guys? What is up? My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host. This is Locked On West Virginia, baby. We're talking about the Mountaineers again today on the football side of things. It's not great news, unfortunately, but we're going to get there. Stick with me. This episode of Locked On West Virginia is going to be brought to you by Monarch Money, guys. We talk about Monarch Money because if you want to take control of your finances, you use Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Thanks for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen and for being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We talk about your team, the Mountaineers, every single day. As we peruse, as people do, I peruse. Do you peruse? I tend to peruse. And unfortunately, notified yesterday evening, I think I found out Jaylen Knighton's name, running back transfer from SMU. Extremely explosive, extremely fast. I mean, for those of you listening can listen. For those of you watching can watch. Here's a call last year from him at SMU.
How about Jaylen Knighton? It's a foot race. Who's gonna get him? Knighton inside the 10. It's a 95-yard touchdown scamper.
So this is a guy that can take it to distance at any point in time, right? This is a home run hitter and somebody that West Virginia absolutely could have relied on. And at the end of the day, he's a guy that could have been your number one running back if all things go wrong, right? He's had a ton of production in his career, a guy that a lot of us were looking forward to seeing in gold and blue. And unfortunately, that will not be the case. It looks to be. Now, what does that mean and why is this happening? I think these are questions that a lot of us want to know answers to, right? How is this? How do we take not one, but not two, not three, not four, but five guys that maybe have eligibility issues on the roster, right? I think that's the question I've gotten the most is, well, if they were going to be ineligible or they had to take risks on these guys, why take them? Why pay them? I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they probably didn't know that going into it. I would say that especially with the four in court, I'm thinking they probably found out after the fact that these are issues. With Knighton, they probably knew coming in that he probably had some kind of issue. I know he's got eligibility left as far as he hasn't used a red shirt. Medically, he's definitely been hurt and everything, but I think he's definitely capable of being able to play. So, what could it be? Well, that leads you to maybe look through at the academic side of things, but I don't want to speculate too much because we don't have an answer. All I know is he's not on the roster. That's what I know. If you look at the actual website here, you'll see Jaheim White, Ty Edwards, Dior Hubbard, Sincere Bowers, Clay Ash, Cannon Katzer. Those are your running backs right now. So that's where we stand with this. Now, I think at the end of the day, we still have enough running backs on the team to definitely be productive this year. Jaylen Knighton has a ton of experience that you can't really replace, but you can try. It's going to take some time. Obviously, if Ty Edwards is eligible, then that makes a world of difference, right? Without him, you start to get a little bit dicier. Guys with no experience at all playing running back, as far as like even Ty Edwards, even though it was at Northern Iowa, he carried the rock a lot for them. I mean, he was their go-to, their workhorse, whatever you want to call it. Jaylen Knighton had also been that at times in his career. So what is West Virginia losing in Jaylen Knighton? Well, if you look at, let's pull it up here. 2020 at Miami, he played in 11 games. He had 52 rushing attempts for 200 yards and a touchdown, 11 receptions for 135 yards. So as a freshman, he was already contributing pretty heavily. 2021, 145 carries in 8 games, 561 yards, 8 touchdowns, 19 catches for 218 yards. You see this? He can do both. He can catch it, he can run it, right? Miami 2022, all 12 games played, 78 rushing attempts for 300 yards, a touchdown, 8 receptions for 83 yards. SMU, in 2023 is really his big year. He had 12 games, 136 rushing attempts, 745 yards, 7 touchdowns, 5.5 yards per carry, 11 receptions, 77 yards. And then last year, he played in limited role due to injury, from what I understand. But overall, you've got 1,858 career rushing yards, 17 touchdowns, averaging close to 5 yards a carry, 53 catches for 555 yards gone from the roster. So, this is a good dude that I think would have made a pretty big impact at the West Virginia spot and at the running back spot for West Virginia. But it's not the kind of loss, in my opinion, that can't be at least made up for. So this is starting to get it's starting to wear on us, right? As fans, I think you start to think like, man, why is it always us in these scenarios? Why are we always seem to be looking at these eligibility issues? And unfortunately, I don't have a great answer for that. But what I will say is I wish the best to Jaylen Knighton. I think he's a great player. I think he's a great guy. We almost did a couple NIL deals, just at different times. And for whatever reason, we couldn't schedule things up just right. In hindsight, I guess I'm kind of glad we didn't, considering he's not going to play on the team, or at least it looks like it right now. And what makes me think that is that they're probably at an impasse is because the last step is to remove somebody from the roster. Case in point, Aiden Bussell, right? I know for a fact that Aiden Bussell and that camp weren't really supposed to be removed from the roster quite as quickly as they were. And unfortunately, that's how they found out, so, that is what it is, right? Sometimes you look up and you're not on the roster, or somebody tells you, hey, why aren't you on the roster, right? So that's kind of how things play out when you get moved off the roster. The only people that can do that, what I understand, is Chuck Lilly, who is the main guy, right? He's the guy that basically is the GM for West Virginia football. So, or one of his staff members, can't say exactly who. So definitely a situation to monitor, a situation to watch, something to be upset about, but also all is not lost, in my opinion. Who steps up next for the Mountaineers at running back if this loss is indeed for sure final, and it really looks like it's final? But you never say never, right? I always hope for a Hail Mary, but with the removal from the roster, that's pretty much the end. But I hate it. I don't want to say that. I don't want it to be final, but that's typically what that means. So let's talk about who steps up next, because there are some options. Who do I like? We're going to talk about that next, right here on Locked On West Virginia. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia going to be brought to you by Monarch Money. We talk about Monarch Money around here, guys, because most people can't even name all their financial accounts, or even what they're worth, for that matter, whether it's 401k, properties, investments, what have you. When you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table pretty much, right? That's why there's Monarch Money, guys. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop, phone, desktop, whatever you use. It does the heavy lifting for you, and if you're like me, I like that. You can link all your accounts in just minutes, see clear data, get visuals. You can get smart categorization of your spending, and you can finally kind of feel in control of your money, which is nice, right? You don't even have to touch a spreadsheet or even look at one. Don't let this financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use Locked On College at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off first year at monarchmoney.com with code Locked On College. Don't do it now. Do it yesterday. In segment 2, we reluctantly crack a do in wake of the Jaylen Knighton news, and it's definitely not something I'm happy about. I think Jaylen Knighton's a guy that could have been anything from the leading rusher to third or fourth on the depth chart this year. Like, I really felt like he had the potential to be really good, especially if he's healed. But, I think Jaylen Knighton is not, I don't think he would have been the workhorse. If you're asking me my personal opinion, I don't think he would have been a workhorse back. I think he could have been a real big piece to a backfield with three guys with, like I said the other day, maybe Jaylen White gets 1,000 yards. Maybe Jaylen Knighton would have had 600 or 700 yards. Maybe Ty Edwards has 500 yards, and you just got this backfield that amasses all these rushing yards. Even though we've got reports from Rich Rod last week saying, hey, look, or yesterday or whenever it was, we actually put in more passing plays right now. Maybe we're going to be more of a passing team, which would also have suited a guy like Jaylen Knighton, who is a terrific receiving back, as is Jaylen White, as we saw against Baylor and other teams with Garrett Green at the quarterback spot. So, all right, obviously, I think at this point in time, Dior Hubbard is running back number 2 behind Jaylen White, right? He's earned it. I don't think he's flashy in at least not yet. I have to see more. Obviously, the spring game was amazing. I thought he looked great in the spring game at times. But is he elite at any one thing? Is he fast? Is he agile? Does he juke? I don't know. I've got to figure out what he's really good at. I think he's got a chance. I just need to watch more of him. I can't wait to watch him versus Robert Morris to see exactly what it is he does best. But for now, what we do know is he's locked up this number 2 spot, and deservingly so. Absolutely, he's deservingly so. I'm obviously a fan of his and everything. I think he's got a shot to be really good for us. But like if you pull up the 40 times, which aren't the be all end all, I say that every time, right? Because it's not. It's just not. He ran a 4.6. So he's not what you would consider a blazer exactly. What was his 10-yard split though on that 4.6? It's 1.53, right? So that makes sense. That's right there among the lowest on the team. So what does that mean? Well, it means he's as quick as Rodney Gallagher is in short space, right? That's a big deal. That means he's herky-jerky. He's jukey-wookie, the whole nine. And I think that's where he shines at, right? He cut back lanes in a phone booth. He makes people miss. And 4.6 is well fast enough to pull away from guys in most situations. So I definitely think, Dior Hubbard, at least in the beginning of the year, as long as he's producing, will play a lot and probably be like a Jaylen Knighton, like possibly have 600 or 700 yards. I could see it all day, every day, and he's earned it, like I said multiple times already. You got to give him the number 2 spot for now. Obviously, everybody knows where I'm going for the next one, and it's not a huge shock. I mean, I'm not trying to trick anybody or pretend like I don't have a little bit of a bias here, but I mean, it's Sincere Bowers. If he can put it all together and be what he was here, fully healthy, able to carry the rock a bunch for a squad, he has the ability to be one of the biggest home run hitters in the entire Big 12. A 4.3 40 guy, a dude that can absolutely just chew dirt up when he gets to run into football. He's got ability that most people would kill to have. And here's the thing, although he's got this amazing straight line speed, as you see right here, as he's beating these dudes by 20 or 30 yards down the field, he's also got some little Tavon in him, right? Where he reads things well, like right here. You see that cutback lane on the kickoff return. It's not immediately open, but he sees it before it happens. Boom. It's not quite open yet. Boom. Now it is with that cut. All he causes people to do is to over pursue, and he's able to cut, right, and get people. And then once you get him in the open field, there are just very few people that are going to catch up to him. It's just not going to happen. So At the end of the day, I think he's a home run hitter. He's a guy that you want to try to get the ball to in space, potentially kind of like we did Tavon, as you see here. You put him in the slot versus a linebacker, and it's just an absolute mismatch. Number 7 knows it. He's like, here he is. And then the linebacker's reluctantly coming over on him like, maybe he won't come this way. And then just this one cut, bam, and he's reaching. He's absolutely abused. I mean, he's on the abuse list now. Scarred for life, going to therapy. He's been abused. Sincere Bowers abused him. So as you can see, now here, this is just speed, right? That's just what he does. He's a speed guy. Not a shock to see him do that. So obviously, Sincere Bowers is, my pick for a guy. If you want me to pick a guy right now, if you're holding my feet to the fire, as long as he stays healthy, I don't think he'll come along until maybe a little later in the season. I just have that gut feeling. Maybe he comes on early. Maybe he comes on during Robert Morris, and I'm totally wrong, and I would be happy to be. But I think he's got, because he's been a little dinged up. He had a hammy. I wouldn't be shocked to see Sincere maybe take a few games to get acclimated to this level and this offense and just everything. And look, by the way, Ty Edwards has to be ruled ineligible for this to be my prediction, by the way. If Ty Edwards is ruled eligible, I think it's going to take some carries away from Sincere, because I think Dior and probably Ty will eventually get a lot of carries. Now, I do think Sincere would probably be ahead of him temporarily just due to practice time. But I think Sincere has the most upside of anybody on the team. But I also think he has some growing to do as far as within the offense, learning the offense, playing at this level. He's coming up from JUCO. So it's just a step above high school. Although there are a lot of Power 5 talent at JUCO, and I know I say that all the time, I still think it's worth noting that it can be a transition for people. Some guys do it right away, some guys don't. But I do think that at some point, we're going to look at Sincere Bowers and say we've got one of the best backs in the league. At the very least, we've got one of the most dangerous backs in the league. I think that maybe that's a better way to say it, because I don't know if he'll ever be a bell cow workhorse, 23, 25 carries a game kind of guy. I just don't know. You can't predict it these days because a lot of running back rooms are by committee, right? And you see that a lot, which we are capable of doing. So obviously Sincere is a huge pick of mine and somebody I'm rooting for tough, because obviously when you stake your name and claim on somebody, you want them to do well so you can come back and say, hey, I called that one. It's just being competitive. I'm a competitive in life, like a lot of people are. But if I had a feel-good pick, somebody that I would love to see become the best back in the league, obviously that's a huge way out of – listen to me. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying if it could happen, which one would make me feel the best? It might be this one. Obviously, I've had Cannon and Sincere both here on the show. And Cannon Katzer is a guy that Rich Rodriguez has named personally, and he's got a great smile, as you see here. He's a kid that lights up the room wherever he's at. He's an extremely hard worker. I've talked to former players and coaches of his now at this point and asked him about him and asked what makes him such a good player, right? At the end of the day, he's just extremely tough. He's also got speed. I mean, he ain't slow at all, and he's a football player. That's what he is. He's somebody that you watch Cannon Katzer, this is the kind of play calls you get.
Defense trying to come up with a stop here after the interception. Katzer blows through a hole. Katzer into the secondary. Katzer stays on his feet to the 10, to the 5. Touchdown, 69. Rock defense.
So that's what you get when you talk Cannon Katzer, right? Somebody that can take it to the house, man.
Offensive line, and Cannon Katzer has flourished in the upper Midwest.
And it all starts with Cannon Katzer in this rushing attack for Ferris State. You see with these highlights, he wants to run between the tackles. This stretch zone gets him going vertically. That's part of what makes him such a dynamic back. Also, his vision. I think that may be the most underrated part of his game. He's got that explosiveness at the point of contact, vision to bounce it when he needs to. All of this, part of what makes him one of the best all-around backs in all offensive line.
So obviously high praise for Cannon Katzer there for some national guys. That was cool to hear. Obviously these are his highlights, and we've seen these first couple of plays, but I mean, you know, Cannon's a kid that he just does everything really well. He doesn't have elite speed. He's a 4.5, 4.55 guy somewhere in there. So it's like really, really good. He's a really, really good receiver. He's really, really tough. He runs through tackles. Like they said, he actually likes to run between the tackles. And then when you look at him from a vision perspective, that's where he sets himself apart as a running back. He just sees holes before they open, similar to all the great ones do. Tavon Austin was able to. The name of Zaraway was able to. Cannon Katzer can. So can Sincere Bowers. You make guys over pursue, and you make your own cutback lanes in a lot of cases, especially on the stretch zone, which is in a lot of cases what West Virginia will be running, as you can see. But his explosiveness in the short area and his acceleration is what I think makes him dangerous, because watch how quickly he's up to top speed. How fast do you think it takes him to get to top speed? Let's see. I'd say right there, right? So about 3 steps, you know, he's there. So that makes somebody really tough when they chew up ground to the point to where they're at top speed quick. And as you can see here on this play, which they showed on the other highlight, he runs over. This is in the snow. Boom, there's contact. 1 tackle broken. Boom, there's contact. 2 tackles broken. Then he pushes the referee out of the way, like kind of gently. There's a 4th contact that he makes, and he's gone. As you can see here, this is probably one of my favorite runs that he has on his profile. You know, obviously this is a huge hole right here, but there is 3 guys. I mean, it's not who's blocking these guys. Nobody, right? So he's got to figure it out. And what does he do? He just obviously the quarterback holds them there. That helps. But he gets behind these 2 maulers, man, and he just, you know, he cuts off of. I mean, he cuts into certain holes. I mean, right there. Look how low he is to the ground. And look at this cut he makes in between these 2 guys. You know, like it's like in a phone booth. Like that's the kind of thing I think makes him special to me. And man, would I love to see this kid get some carries in Rich Rod's offense. I think he would be so good in Rich Rod's offense if he, like, once he figures it out, and he's already used to running this kind of offense. Look at this. Watch how he sets up his blocks here with this little hop skip thing that he does. You know, like I love that. I love that. That's Le'Veon Bell-esque. Little hop to the skip to the side, and then boom, you accelerate up. I definitely think Katzer's a kid that you just can't overlook, man. And look at the power here. Almost taken to the ground, just rips away, and then's got speed to pull off. So Cannon is obviously another big favorite of mine that I would just love to see do well for West Virginia. I know that it's a bit of a long shot, especially if Ty Edwards comes back. I do think he'll get his carries, but you know, for sure he's going to be a guy that some things have to go right for in order for him to, I think, produce in the very first year at West Virginia. But I mean, if you look at some of these performances, 10 carries, 154 yards, and a touchdown in a game, that's pretty wild. 1,031 yards, 9 yards per carry, 11 touchdowns, 94. I don't know what that is right there. Probably receiving yards, maybe, or that's probably his longest run, 94 yards. But either or, he had an incredible career there at Ferris State. Obviously, it's D2, so a lot of people will point out that the competition level isn't that, which is why I like to go to this Washington State stuff and point that out. Like, hey, if you want to see him perform against Power 4 competition, we can do that, because he did it at Washington State. He had a couple games where he was the only running back they had, and their coach had this to say. This is Washington State head coach.
How cool, at least for you as a coach, was that all that for Cannon? He gets the 6 carries and then punches in at the end. No, he's been through a lot on and off the field. Just for you as a coach, how special was that moment?
For Katz, it's special. Something hopefully he'll never forget, because when guys work that hard and they sacrifice themselves for the betterment of the team. But I've seen it, right? He used to terrorize us on scout team, and I'd call him cutback cats, and we couldn't control him. And every scrimmage, he pours his heart in there. So to get that opportunity and carry the ball like that is inspiring, not just for me, but for that locker room full of guys that are just so happy for him and what he accomplished.
And here are the plays at Washington State that he made. Oh no, this is not it. This is JUCO. But everything you need to know about Cannon Katzer, you just heard right here from the Washington State guy, right? What did he say about the locker room, especially? Those were the guys that were most happy for him. I think that tells you all you need to know about Katz. And if you've seen him on my show, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Super likable, very humble, kind of quiet, the whole thing. Cannon Katzer is somebody not to forget about in this race. I really do believe our running back room, if Ty Edwards comes back, it'll be the overall most talented running back room we've had in the Neil Brown era, Naaman era. Back to Rich Rod, maybe. I'd have to think about it year by year. It's not something you can say without looking at it. And obviously they still have to. Well, now that Knighton's gone, that takes a big chunk of that talent out of the room, though. I still think it's got a chance, especially, I don't want to forget about Clay Ash. And I don't say that lightly. I do think Clay Ash, if given the opportunity, could produce. I love the kid. I think he's got talent. Like, I really do. I think that Rich Rod kept all the guys that can play in this offense. I just think he has a lot of hurdles in front of him to be able to do that. But I would love to see him get a chance as well. But for the most part, it's going to be between, obviously, Jaheim White's going to get most of the carries, followed by probably Dior Hubbard or Ty Edwards, if Ty Edwards is eligible. If not, that really moves up Sincere and Cannon to be in a spot to produce, and I think they will. If Sincere can stay healthy and get in shape to run this offense, there's no way that Rich Rod won't use a 4-3 guy. So, that's another thing to keep in mind. Like I say, Sincere's one to watch, but there's a couple guys that are able to be watched here. Let's go to break again, guys. We'll come back. We'll put a bow on this one. This is Locked On West Virginia. All right, guys, we are back, and I appreciate you guys for joining in on this episode. It's kind of unfortunate, right? That's true. I forgot about Andre Devine. I'm assuming that he'll probably be coming now. That's a great point. Thank you for saying that, Bill. I'm assuming he'll probably be here now that this has happened. So, unfortunate series of events for West Virginia, no doubt about it. But here we are, right? So, but Andre Devine, who I think has a little ways to go, but certainly can produce for West Virginia. He can, but he's got a little ways to go before he's in that situation, in my opinion. So I don't want to say too much, but it's definitely, I think, a bit of a desperation ad. But what do? You got to have bodies in the running back room. So we don't want to have to put Rodney Gallagher back there, do we? Which, by the way, might be a good spot for Rodney Gallagher. All right, guys, I appreciate you for joining in. Thanks for being here on this episode. Going to be dropping another episode with Drake Toll from Locked On Big 12. That'll be coming today. I think might even have a Locked On Big 12 squad show coming today. Plus, I'll probably record again today. There's going to be a lot of content coming to the channel today. Keep your eyes peeled for it. And until then, have a great one. Wish Jaylen Knighton the best if you see him on social media or anything. I'm sure he's probably not feeling great about everything. And I'll see you guys later. I'm out of here.